No, we didn't. They want to one place before start chatting.
Yep.
I have to let these people in, right? So that's okay. Hey, Bob.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yep. For some reason I wasn't getting in.
Me too. Just finishing dinner.
I did too. I'm sorry I'm late. Yeah. Let's wait for a couple of minutes and see if, or at least a minute, and see if Jim joins us. Okay, I'll be right back.
Let me text him too.
I'll finish dinner. I'll go.
How's it going, Bob? You okay?
Yeah, good. I just texted. I just called Jimmy's phone and went to voicemail.
Okay.
Text him as well.
He did say he could join us, but who knows? Mary, are you there?
I am. I'll be right back, but I'm listening.
Why don't we why don't we get started? Together a real loose agenda.
Yep.
I don't know if you guys got it or not.
Yeah, I think so.
I think I sent it out. So I mean, basically, let me just go through it. The first thing, and not to get really official about this or officious about it, but the first thing we should do is, review what the purpose of this subcommittee is, just so we're all on the same page. And I think we already are, but in my mind, is to review the existing lake ordinances, concerning all the activities on the lake, and then, if needed, make any recommendations for changes. Everyone agree with that?
Yep, totally. Yep.
I mean, it's pretty simple, obviously.
Let's rewrite the town ordinances where we need to.
Right. Just to let you know, I have asked Mark Walter to ask the town attorney for two opinions. One, if the town ordinances are enforceable on the lake from a state standpoint, because the state owns the waters. And two, if we make changes, do we have to go to DEEP for their approval of the changes? I asked Mark that question about 2 weeks ago. I have yet to hear back from him. I've talked to him a couple of times. He has not heard back from the attorney, but I thought, we can still do what we're going to do, but I thought that was something important because, LMAC has always been under the impression that we have to go to DEP for all their approvals. Well, is that true? I mean, we don't know. We think it is, but we don't know. So probably what the town attorney will have to do is talk to the state's attorney about it, not to DEP, because they'll say, of course you have to come and see us, but it's got to be, it's a legal thing more than anything else. So I've asked him for that opinion. When I get it, if and when I get it, obviously I'll share it with you guys. Okay.
Yeah. So really, what you're saying, the lakes in Connecticut, Connecticut could in fact be governed by the DEP, but they may not be. It could be governed by the towns as a recommendation to the DEP, and the DEP just. So therefore, we're kind of off the hook. Yeah,
all bodies of water in the state of Connecticut are owned by the state of Connecticut. The town, as you know,
Managed.
bottom of
managed.
Pardon me?
I'm sorry, they're managed by the state of Connecticut. They're not owned.
Now, I don't know as our lake is owned by the town. I know the bottom is owned by the town, but I'm not sure about the water.
Correct.
Right.
The water is managed according to the deep definition.
Well,
I'd have to go back and find it. but-
that's Deep's definition. What I want is a legal definition, not Deep's definition, you know?
Sure.
Who knows? I mean, over the years, things change and people assume things or whatever. So I just asked Mark to kind of clarify that for us, or have the
I
town.
don't think that changes our goal.
No, I don't think it does. I think it's
Yeah.
just important for us to understand that, so that if we
Yeah.
present to LMAC something that's contrary to what we've always thought, then I think it's important for everyone to know that.
No, I agree. Good.
Yeah. No, it doesn't change what we're doing at all. Not at all. Okay, so I think we need to establish, what I put together was sort of a procedure of how we're going to do what we're going to do. I mean, I think we're all on the same page. Yes, there need to be modifications done to the existing lake ordinances. So
Yeah.
what I thought was, you know, obviously the first thing we do is review, do our homework, do some research, and then make recommendations to LMAC for potential lake ordinances changes.
Is there a top 10 we should be focusing on and then get into the minutiae later?
For that, Bob. Let
What's
me
that?
go through the procedure first, okay?
Okay,
I,
right.
In my mind, again, I'm not saying this is the procedure. This is what I think it is, and I hopefully you guys will agree. So once we make our recommendation to LMAC, LMAC's going to, the rest of the LMAC is going to weigh in, obviously.
Right. You'll get a lot of feedback, I'm sure.
On the line,
I'm sure.
this will be interesting.
Constructive criticism.
Fine, LMAC will then recommend to the Board of Selectmen the
Right.
changes that need to be made to the ordinances, all right? The town is then going to accept those or receive them and then ask the town attorney to weigh in on them, I'm sure. All right. And then once the town attorney weighs in and says yes or no, you know, or wordsmiths it or does whatever he does, the Board of Selectmen will then vote on it to accept, to propose new lake ordinances. There's a couple of ways they can do that, apparently. They can take it to a town meeting where, again, the Board of Selectmen votes on this, but they may wish the general population to weigh in at a town meeting, or the Board of Selectmen can say, no, we're just going to vote on it right now and let it go. Forget the town meeting. I sense that they'll probably want a town meeting, you know, public hearing in a town meeting, because they're all politicians. And
I'm not so sure.
well,
It'll be interesting.
whatever, it's a lame duck. So
Yes.
he may just say, the hell with it, I'm just going to vote on it. You know,
Yeah.
vote on it. If he were going for re-election, I could see him saying, yeah, I want to hear from the town, from the general population.
That's their decision. So
Right, exactly. Okay, so there's two ways they can go. They either go,
Yeah.
they vote on it within themselves at a normal Board of Selectmen meeting, or they take it to a public meeting where the town would weigh in, and they still vote on it, but they would let the town weigh in on the things.
If
So-
that were to happen, would there be a draft? Would there be a draft that was circulated before the town meeting so they could see what the revisions would be?
So yeah,
likely.
there'd be some kind of a draft. The general
Yeah.
public would know what is being proposed ahead of time instead of being presented at a meeting.
Frankly,
Yeah.
if they did a public meeting, it would educate.
Yes.
It would educate, but the other side of that is you could get a lot more people's opinions and
Oh, I'm sure.
offerings that we're gonna have to go revisit before we
Yeah.
find these.
Yeah.
People-
No, that's the clear downside.
You remember all the public meetings when we decided to have a gate with keys and stuff?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was
Oh.
crazy.
Yeah.
I think there's standing room
I
only.
think there's still some arrows healing in my body.
Yeah. So, exactly. Some of them are in your back too.
That happens every
So then I was looking at the agenda and I said, well, why don't we put a tentative schedule together just to see? I mean, I think the goal is to have this stuff in place by next summer. At least
Oh,
that,
definitely.
you know, I think we're all in agreement with that. So
I would say
backing up,
spring.
Right, spring
So-
and before voting season starts next year. So, which is a
Correct.
aggressive schedule, because we need, as a group, we need to present it to LMAC, I think, at September's meeting. I really do. We need to do our homework in the next 2 weeks and just get it there, because it's going to take at least a month for LMAC to kind of wordsmith this and figure it out. And we're going to, and so by the October meeting, we could make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen. Board of Selectmen then sends it to the town attorney. That could take a month for him to review. Come back to the Board of Selectmen. If in fact it has to go to DEEP, you got to send it to them for their wordsmithing or whatever, and then it comes back to the Board of Selectmen again, and then the Board of Selectmen has to do this whole town meeting thing or whatever. So I think the onus is on us to get this done as quickly as possible, and then it's on somebody else's plate. I mean, if we delay 3 months, I think we're going to get screwed. I really do.
Bob?
Yeah.
The DEEP, if we have to go there, has a requirement to respond within 60 days.
Right. So there's 2 months right there.
Correct.
But also, you've got the town attorney who's going to do things.
I know.
And all this stuff before it gets to a vote. So, and again, if we want it for the spring, I think we need to really try to, in the next 2 weeks, try to push something together, put something together so we can present it to LMAC. We know it's not going to be the exact thing because there's going to be people on LMAC. They're going to want to weigh in and change things or do whatever. It's got to come from LMAC. So I think it behooves us to do it as quickly as possible, I guess is what I'm saying. Okay, so let's talk about the issues now. So in my mind, there were a couple of, there's probably 3 categories of issues. One would be access and inspection. The other would be enforcement. And the other would be definitions of vessels on the lake. They're sort of all encompassing, but and we can get into the weeds of each one of those. But starting with access and inspection, Mary, I think you did a great job, talking about invasives and all that stuff. And I think we really need to push for more inspections and more responsibilities about that. I don't particularly like the self-inspection part of what we have these days, because I think basically people ignore it. I also think we need to push for better inspections by the gate personnel, because when I put my boat in, they didn't even look at my boat. I mean, they took a picture of my registration and they walked away. I mean, it was ridiculous. Yes, it was at the beginning of the season, but they didn't know if I was over in Mono Pond or Coventry Lake or whatever. They didn't even ask, So I think that's a big part of the inspection thing. So I think part of what we need to do is define what the inspection procedure is, again, which is what you got into, Mary.
Right. There is an ordinance that I believe Henry Beck wrote specific to that. Yeah. It was reasonably done, so I didn't really
right. No, I think it was. We did spend a lot of time when we first started with the keys and the access and stuff. I think we did do a lot of homework on that.
Correct.
I thought that was pretty well done. I think the question is, or the issue is, it's not being done properly. It's not, the inspection's not being done. I mean, the procedures are there. It's just not being done.
Correct.
The other thing that I sent it to you guys. I did some research on different lakes, and Lake Warramog, for example, charges an inspection fee every time somebody launches a boat. It's $5, which is nominal, but it helps offset the cost of somebody doing the inspection. Maybe that's something we should talk about.
Yeah, the other thing too, I was talking to, was it Deb Fisk? Is she the rec director?
Yeah.
She and Marine Patrol reports to her, right?
Yes.
So she's trying to make her life easier, and with regard to time available by the Marine Patrol. And one of the things that I thought we could do is we could leverage the Columbia.org website, create a separate website for Marine Patrol, And if you want to use your lake in Columbia Lake, you're going to be required, you would be required to fill out a registration form online, upload a picture to it, and then submit that to the town before the season starts. So now the Marine Patrol has a record that they can store in their database of every boat that's going to be launched in the upcoming year. Because Deb seems to struggle with creating a database and an access file for each and every boat that are on the lake. And there's really no way to do that unless maybe you push it downstream a little bit and put it on the owners themselves. If you want to, access, I mean, it may be difficult to put in place, but maybe we got to look at how we're doing it from a process perspective.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think it would probably take a couple of years to get into place so that everyone signed
Yeah, it
on.
may not take overnight, but
I don't have access to a computer. I can't do this. I can't upload a picture. I can't.
right, exactly. I hear you.
Yeah.
I know that could create problems. That we could have a manual access, as a backup.
Backup, yep.
I guess my problem is, isn't it their job, and let them figure it out? They should be doing what they should be doing.
Yeah, actually it is. And it's not that LMAC got involved, I got involved because I was talking to Deb. I finally put the communication
The
board
new
up at the
sign.
lake. Put the signboard up, and she started talking to me about, I told her I was working the LMAC wall and dock repair, tracking sheet, trying to put that into the website. And she says, well, is there any way you can help us with art? So it was a side discussion, but I'm thinking how it comes into access and inspection. Could it make people's lives easier creating a database for all the boaters on the lake? And the only time you have to change it is if you buy or sell.
Well, the other extension of that would be, you could link in enforcement to that webpage as well.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the point. Now all you do is access it with your cell phone out on the lake. Marine Patrol can pull it right up and, put a little check mark by there or something. I don't know. I don't know how it will look, but just a thought. It could be a little longer term, but maybe that's an approach.
Yeah, so yeah, I think that's a great idea, and maybe that's something. I don't see that happening immediately unless you want to.
No, I agree.
Over the winter, but I think that's a good idea.
But Bob, what are some of the things you're seeing that's not working for the gate? Is it misuse of keys? Is it timing? Is it, they're not doing the invasive species inspection? What are some of the infractions we're seeing?
Right now, it's my feeling that Steve Everett is fed up with the whole key situation, and he may be prime for a suggestion to revisit that. And maybe it's either card key access where we could track everybody better, or maybe it's the gates are open at 7 o'clock and 7 till noontime on Wednesdays and Saturdays, so that fishermen can fish 2 days a week, and that's it. The rest of the time it's closed. Who knows? But there's been enough agina about sort of after hours access to the lake that I think Steve is fed up with a lot of the complaints that have been going on.
I think changing the key policy is a definite priority when it comes to access and inspection. And frankly, that ties to enforcement. This Saturday, we had a boat on the lake until after 11, and they pulled it because the guy had a key.
Yep. Yeah.
At 11:15.
Yeah. So I mean, all of these are good examples of why we should not have a key. I mean,
well,
the way the houseboat got on the lake is because of a key, right?
Yeah, exactly. Now, the other idea is we could have a key access. There's a lot of good technologies out there. We're upgrading our cameras there, not to do with LMAC, but we've got some better visibility from cameras going in and out. Can we put in a key code? Just like you walk into your house and everybody has that. Or I don't know if you would assign a key code with a identifier per person. I don't know how that would work, but because all you'd have to do is, hey, can you call somebody and say, hey, what's the key code? Or everyone has a unique key code. I don't know if that's possible.
Well, card key access is the same thing. You can track.
Yeah, card key access, sure.
I mean,
just have a credit card access and get rid of the keys.
Right.
Could you could you assign some sort of an access, key access, and it only works at certain hours?
Oh, yeah, card key, you can do that. You can limit access via a card key. It also tracks everyone that uses it.
Yeah, and what you're saying is you'd have a hard shutdown at like
Yep.
10 p.m. and nobody gets in unless
Correct.
there's an exception somewhere where you have to call.
Or no
And,
one gets out after
Yeah,
10.
no one gets out, no one gets off the lake. Tie your boat up to the nearest rock and we'll see you in the morning.
I think Lake Warramog has a drawdown, I think in October sometime, I forget what it was. But if you don't retrieve your boat until after that, it's like a $75 charge for somebody to go down and open the gate so you can take your boat off the water,
Oh, yeah.
you know. And we've had that on Columbia Lake. When I was Marine Patrol, I used to get a call, November 15th, I get a call, oh, my boat's still on the lake. Can you come open the gate so I can take it?
Well, the other thing I heard in the meeting was with regard to access and inspection and gate usage was the marinas putting boats in, and they're not going to give you the time to stop because the owner's not there.
Who's putting?
The marinas are putting
That-
boats in without
Oh.
going through inspections.
That goes back to your potential for a website registration before they show up.
Right.
Yeah, that would work. I mean,
But the marinas did provide all the information we asked them for. They provided a list of all the people that they had launched.
Yep.
So Marine Patrol can go around on their boat and do the inspections,
oh, okay.
which is
So-
what we used to
so
do
what-
in the old days.
It's what we used to
so-
do.
So really, it's not
Exactly.
an issue then. I mean, why did that come up in our LMAC meeting?
Yeah, because people don't know the history. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
No, because the Marine Patrol is not certifying those boats that have been put in.
why not?
There are at least 10 that Mike Scalise has identified, put in by marinas, not certified.
Why not? That's their job.
Well, that goes back to enforcement.
I got stopped about a month ago because the guy didn't think I had a sticker on my windshield. And I said, come around to this side. This is where the sticker is. He didn't even know what
Yeah.
sticker was supposed to be.
Mm,
So again, I think part of it's enforcement, part of it's education of the Marine Patrol.
Correct.
So I think, I think so. So I think the inspection procedure, both at the gate and by Marine Patrol, needs to be better defined. Better education, I think, at the beginning of the season by people. I mean, I don't even know what's the name of the person that runs Marine Patrol? I forget her name.
Deb
Brian-
Fisk?
Well,
No.
Deb Fisk is the recreation director. Brian Ald is the manager.
Right, but Deb Fisk, I don't think even has a boating license, does she?
Yes, she does.
Oh, she does. Okay.
And she was out on the lake today, learning a lot of things.
It's a bit
But-
late in the season to learn things, isn't it?
Well, she's giving it her best try. And frankly, that's why we put Brian Ald in the manager position, because he is so experienced that he should be the one facilitating and running and doing the appropriate enforcement, et cetera.
Right.
Brian's pushback to date has been, we don't, and this is what you're speaking to, we really don't have the procedures. Well, I hate to tell them, there's 2 flow charts that we developed last year based on what you wrote in 2019 or 2017, Bob, and they haven't gone through and really utilized those. So, I think we have relatively good procedures on access and inspection. We have to do a better job of training to that for the Marine Patrol to be able to do their job. And, I'm not sure we have to rewrite any town ordinances about access, inspection, or enforcement. I
No.
think these are all policies that are already written that just need to be executed, trained to and executed. And I think your other statement, Bob, of education is huge.
Yeah, I agree, Mary. I think you're right. I think we need to demand from the town manager that the proper education is done of the Marine Patrol people vis-a-vis inspections and access and things like that. I mean, it's just, from my experience this year and even last year, it's just non-existent. It really is. It depends on who you get. It's not consistent.
Touche. It depends on who you get.
Exactly.
If you get Brian Ald, you get a thorough inspection.
Right.
If you get Anika, you get no inspection.
That's who I had. I had Anika.
Well, from a process perspective, what are they checking off on that little clipboard that they have? Is that
Nothing. They're taking pictures with their cell phones.
all right? So maybe that's where we have the opportunity, is that checklist is required for every boat that's launched.
Well, that's the way it used to be. It used to be,
And-
paid, you know.
And somehow we've got to enforce it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's
I
too
think these are things off.
done- it's too easy to take a picture and say, I've done what I've done, and then just
Yeah.
forget to download it or upload it or do whatever you do.
So I think these are things that offline we can look at, we can work with Deb and Brian on, and
Yeah.
obviously force Steve and Mark to enforce.
Yeah.
Are these the things that we need to rewrite for the BOS? Okay,
I don't think so. I think we leave the ordinances the way they are as far as invasives and inspections and things like that. I think those are in good shape.
yeah,
Yeah.
I have to say, I didn't,
I sort of sensed that at the beginning, but I think it's good that we've talked it through. But I think let's leave those the way they are, and let's push for better education of Marine Patrol, which is doesn't have anything to do with ordinances. It's just LMAC dealing with Mark and Steve.
yeah, the changes I put in are very minor and procedural. I don't think it requires a town ordinance change. It
Right.
requires a procedural change.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah, I think we have to be careful with how many potential changes we have to the ordinance.
exactly.
Yeah. We got to pick our battles, you know?
Yeah,
Okay, so the next one would be enforcement. And again, I think, in my mind, there's the procedural part of enforcement, but there's also invasive species, there's safety, there's other infractions, there's regulatory infractions, regulations, state regulations, that type of thing. And are they done by the Marine Patrol? Are they done by the state trooper? Enforcement is a huge issue. I mean, it's a wide open kind of topic, ranging anywhere from, speed limits and over, boats not registered properly. I mean, all kinds of things. So, yeah, going back to the beginning, what power does the Marine Patrol have? Unfortunately, they don't have a whole lot of power. I don't think, from a legal standpoint, that they can go out and use a radar gun, for example, to do speed,
correct.
because they're not trained for that. There's a certain, I think, certification that you have to hand out tickets to people. They can hand out warnings, but I don't think they can hand out tickets to anybody because they're not at a certain level of enforcement. They're not enforcement people. They're only considered constables at best.
Yeah, I was going through one of the items, Mary, in section 6 under penalties. This is item A. The Marine Patrol will at a safe time will stop watercraft operators and inform them of infractions and or safety violations. What's the definition of infractions, and what does our Marine Patrol really have the authority to issue an infraction?
I don't think they do. They can issue warnings, but I don't think they can issue infractions or citations.
So it's really just a warning, and they would document the name of the operator in the watercraft, blah, blah, blah.
Which is apparently what they've instituted recently is a three-part carbon copy type of thing where they issue a warning to somebody, they take it back, they put it into some database or whatever, and they let the state trooper know. Because then if the second thing happens, then the state trooper gets involved and issues a citation.
So
how are they going to
two,
do that? How are they going to track that? I mean,
two things.
before, it's really hard to track.
So two things. In the current town ordinance for safety regulations of motorboats, etc., section 5 says Marine Patrol officers. The Board of Selectmen is provided by law may appoint such Marine police officers as it deems necessary to enforce the provisions of this article and the motorboat regulations of the state of Connecticut. That's a very general statement.
I don't think that's legally correct.
Well, if we need then the town attorney before we go to Deep, but Deep approved this ordinance way back in 1987.
Yeah, but what you just read is stating that the Marine Patrol officers has the authority to enforce as noted or as stated in the local ordinance. Blah,
Yes.
blah, blah, right?
The provisions
So-
of this article
so
and
where-
the state of
But
Connecticut.
you're adding, Mary, in your update, you're adding that they are now going to give you an infraction.
Well, what I'm suggesting is, as I understood it, they could only give warnings so that they could give, and maybe I have to change the language
Okay,
of infraction to warning, because the first
Right.
warning is Marine Patrol. The second warning includes a fine. We have to, I put in written warning to include a fine. And the third warning goes to the state trooper.
yeah, that's fine. It's just on the infractions piece, but yeah, it's really just a violation of safety.
Yeah,
Safety
I
violation.
can wordsmith that.
Yeah, I think the second violation should go to the state trooper, not the third one.
And I'm happy to adjust it to that.
I mean, I know when I get stopped for speeding, I get one warning. The second time I get a ticket, you know,
Yeah, yeah. And
So
I
you're
can
lucky you
certainly,
got the warning.
I know.
if you both
lucky
agree,
you
I
got-
can make that change. And
Yeah.
we go from warning to state trooper right away.
Yeah, I don't know if the second would be state trooper right away. I think you should probably go a third time, but that's just
If-
my,
Come on.
if-
Why?
that's my opinion. I'm not,
Wait,
I'm
wait,
not
wait.
tough. I'm not a retired cop or anything. you know?
But the enforcement of this is people have to know they'll suffer. If the second violation can be given by the Marine Patrol and it's $100 penalty, that is going to hurt. At least it would hurt me.
Or- yeah,
But the
I guess-
Marine Patrol can't give out the penalties
Well, how do we know
I guess
that?
you
I
could
think
do
we
that.
have to.
because you have to have a certain certification as a police officer to give out citations.
Well, then let's find that out and find out what's needed. And can we get them that? I think we need to check into what can they do and what can't they do.
So,
And what do they need to do to give out $100 fine?
but Mary, what you wrote was the second violation would be within 12 months, $100 fine. There's nothing in there about reporting it to the state police.
No,
The
I
third-
didn't do
the
that.
The third one, C, for the third offense would be to the state police. So
Right,
I'm aligned with that.
yeah.
But I
and-
think when you pull them over at the first time, you need to tell them that the second violation, by the way, within 12 months, you're going to get a written and you're going to get $100. So that
Boom.
should be stated.
Yep.
And
Okay.
that'll deter them just from that, feedback. I
Yeah.
think.
Aren't,
Yeah.
aren't two,
I don't think we can get into the legalese tonight. I think we have to check and
right,
see what do we need to do for them to give $100 warning.
But reading through it, I agree. I agree with the way you wrote it.
Okay.
I think that
I'll
that
leave it
makes
as that.
sense.
Is
But-
that okay,
Yeah.
Bob?
Mary, there's two categories. There's one, infractions of ordinances. There's also infractions of state laws, right?
Right,
Most
but
of,
section 5 says we can do both.
right, but there, I'm not sure we can.
Well, I'm sure you're not sure, and I'm not sure we can't.
Yeah.
So I think that's where we need the town attorney or someone legally to weigh in on that.
Yeah,
And if
My
we
previous-
can't, what is it, what training do we need so we can? Because I'd like to see these people trained.
Or do you get the state trooper involved early on and let him do it or her do it?
Well, frankly, I'd rather, and it's a balance of enforcement and trying to be palatable to everybody on the lake. I'd rather our Marine Patrol have a little bit more clout and be able to do 1 and 2. I think involving a state trooper, our state trooper is part-time to begin with. They
Yeah,
don't
you'd
live
have-
on the lake and they aren't even.
You'll have a hard time getting them.
Exactly. So I really think we need to get an opinion on what do they need to do to be able to give out a $100 warning or fine or whatever we're going to call it.
Yeah, and I think we need to think about what the monetary value is. I mean, it's good to put something in there, but
Well, I threw it in, but I will tell you, it used to be $50. If you
Yep.
just take inflation from 1987, it would be $144.
Well, and that's for ordinance, that's for lake ordinances. The boat safety thing is defined by the state.
Correct.
Every violation has a different value and all that kind of stuff, so.
Well, and we can look at all that. I think generally speaking, it sounds like we have some consensus that we need to go with a little bit more oomph in terms of a second violation and a third violation.
Yeah, I
Make them,
agree.
there has to be a little pain. There
Yeah,
has to be pain.
so the, not just to play devil's advocate here, the downside of that is people are gonna take it to court. They're gonna appeal. So we have to, towns
If
will
we, if,
increase their budget for patrol people to go to court.
you know what, we're just here to make our recommendations to write. We are not the people who are going to make the final say and say, yeah, people will take us to court.
Yep.
And Steve Everett or the town attorney may say, then take us to court.
Yep.
But I'm not sure that's in our bailiwick to have to
Or-
make that decision tonight.
Or follow the rules. Make it simple.
No, I think that's good. I think that's good. I
Thank
would,
you.
again, I would have one warning and then you get a citation. I wouldn't do two warnings. The big problem is going to be tracking those warnings from one Marine Patrol officer to the other to make sure they know what's going on.
That's why I want that database.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Exactly. Oh,
Yeah.
I agree. I'm just leading into that. That's exactly right.
It's easy to say, but it might be hard to put in place, you know?
Right.
Yeah, I just can't believe we can't enter something into a database that, like permit says, warning 1 issued, Red Boat, Sleepy Hollow Road, as an example only. Warning 2 issued with $100 fine. Warning 3, state trooper.
Yeah, agree.
We can't manage the procedures and the process, but we have to demand that the process be managed. That's enforcement.
Yep.
Okay.
So it sounds like we have 2 who want to stick with what is written so far. Rob?
Yep.
Is it Rob or Bob? I always say Rob.
It's Bob,
Okay, Bob.
but you can call me Rob, so you're not confused with Bob.
Okay, Bob 1 is Powell. Bob 2 is
Okay.
Miller.
I think it should be one warning and then a citation. And I think you guys want 2 warnings, right?
Yeah, I would prefer 2 warnings.
I would go with that and a fine on the second warning. And we'll figure out if we can have
Okay.
a process.
Well, that's fine. If there's a second warning with a fine, I'm good with that.
Okay, that's as written.
Okay.
Um,
So is that pretty much it for enforcement, do you think? What about enforcement of invasives? Do we want self-inspection or do we want? I mean, part of the thing that I saw was in our current ordinances, if there's any visible sign of invasives, then the Marine Patrol officer removes it from the boat. I mean, that's not our job. That's not the Marine Patrol's officer's job. It's the boat owner's job.
No, they turn the boat away.
No,
have to-
no, it says in our ordinance that they remove it.
They removed the boat.
No, they remove the invasive species.
Well, let me go back and review that. That was not the intent when it was written in
No, I know.
2017.
That's something about removing invasive species, and the Marine Patrol people, if
Well,
anything, the boat owner,
No. Now, when we published and educated, they had to take it home, how to wash it, how to use bleach, a 5-day period before it could come back.
okay, take
After
another look
she-
at that, please.
yeah, that to me makes sense. If you were to just remove it, it's still there, in my opinion.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah,
Talk-
that
I'm
doesn't,
gonna go for a minute, just keep talking, please. Be right back.
okay.
the other thing is, do people launch boats in areas other than the boat launch?
Say that again, Bob.
Are there other locations where you can launch a boat on the lake? People's home?
Very few exist anymore. There are, it's right next door to me. There's a property on Erdoney that has its own launch.
Okay.
And I think some people launch kayaks at the beach, at the Erdoney Road Beach, but these are all people who live within the ability to carry a kayak
Yeah,
from
I
across the
agree, but
street, so.
I think most of them kayaks have probably been other places besides Columbia, you know? If,
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing. I think everything should go through the gate launch. If you were to ask me, I mean, whether it's a sailboat, a kayak.
well, maybe we ought to have some words around how people launch kayaks and other hand carried devices, or because how are we enforcing invasive species on those right now? Does,
Oh,
if I pull up with 2 on my car, is the Marine Patrol gonna ask me to inspect them for invasive species, or is that back to the whole education thing?
As a matter of fact, kayaks are the worst offenders because sometimes they're inside the hull, the invasives. So yeah, the Marine Patrol should be inspecting any vessel that is launched onto the lake.
I
Again,
agree.
is that
That's,
a learning thing for them? Because I don't know if they do it right.
I believe they're doing, any boat, kayak, canoe, paddleboard, personal watercraft, or contrivance with or without propulsion and capable of carrying one or more persons, shall be included in inspections. The trailer and other equipment used to transport.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
reading
it
that
is
here, yeah.
in the current, but again, Bob too, it goes back to, is it being enforced?
Yeah.
Is it happening?
Yeah, okay, yeah, I see that here.
Yeah.
So are we done with enforcement, do you think?
I think so.
I mean, a big part of it is education, we think, right? And then obviously the fine structure or the warning and fine structure.
Yeah, the only thing I put in the inspection is from an educational point of view, that not only should there be an inspection, there should be some sort of a checkoff or checklist, but once it is complete, that everybody receives a copy of the boating regulations and the town ordinances.
Yep. Which is what we used to do. They haven't done it recently, so.
Correct.
Yeah, yeah.
And
point.
our former, I can say our former rec director threw them all out because he thought that's what everybody would do when they received them.
Idiot.
That's why he's former. But he didn't believe in education.
So is the use, okay, the other one you were talking about is definition of vessels on the lake. Is that a third one we're gonna talk about?
Yeah, what this is, I think this is going to be the big one.
Relative to under enforcement, is that also talk to water skiers and tubers and?
Yeah, there's 2 separate town ordinances, Bob, too.
Right, yeah, and I'm looking at them, I'm reading them. In section 1 of the draft that you submitted, I'm going through that, and it
right.
You did add electric engines as well. I saw that, which was good. I'm just wondering for any other new type of boat or creation, if you will, that comes into Columbia Lake, it should be contingent upon the inspection or approval of LMAC or Columbia Lake Association or something for usage.
The Board of Selectmen.
The Board of Selectmen.
Yeah.
Should we add a sentence in there like that so we can protect what's coming down the road that we don't know is coming?
Exactly. Why don't we make that under section 3, prohibiting certain use of Columbia Lake, on Columbia Lake, section FG, whatever it is, and add a sentence that
it's E, section E.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In it, to your point, when I wrote this, I wrote things that should be prohibited include houseboats, any watercraft with enclosed cabin. Now I've added inflatable floating tents. I actually had a person say to me yesterday on the lake that there are now inflatable floating tents that can be inflated and you can temporarily have an overnight out on the lake.
Well, instead of specifically saying inflatable tents, why don't we say something to the effect that there's no sleeping on any vessel overnight.
Well, I think we need to say both.
Well, but if we're so specific about things, there's going to be exceptions. We have to think sort of broadly, all-encompassing things as opposed to very specific. This type of vessel is not allowed, because next year it could be something that is a hard-shelled tent that's on a boat that somebody sleeps on.
Well,
So,
that's why I added nothing with an enclosed cabin or nothing with an enclosure.
well, I was thinking more like you can't sleep on a boat, you can't cook on a boat, and you can't have a toilet on a boat.
You can still have a houseboat with an enclosed cabin.
Well,
Is
do
that
you
what we
want to
want?
prohibit cabin? Do you want to prohibit cabin cruisers then?
Yes,
Anything with an enclosed cabin?
yes.
Why?
If you're gonna have a maximum power boat of 21 feet, you're probably not gonna see that. But if you want, if we change our maximum length to everything being 26 feet, you're gonna see cabin cruisers, you're gonna see houseboats with enclosed cabins, of which we already have one. I think
What
we
is
do
that?
have to be more
long is-
specific.
How long is that boat that they launched? Mary?
33 feet.
And you're saying, did you put that in here saying that the length would be 33, or are we just bringing examples from other lakes?
Now, pontoon boats maximum I suggested was 26 feet.
26, okay.
And
So,
that's what Candlewick has. And already on this lake, we have pontoon boats at 25 feet.
so that would disqualify that houseboat, right?
Yes, it would.
Wouldn't it though?
Right?
Yes.
It would.
Or
Technically.
could he argue in court that it's been grandfathered?
No, there's no grandfathering of lake ordinances.
No, my point is, according to Lake Patrol, that meets our requirements today.
It
Today.
doesn't meet them now because we have no length requirement.
But if you change an ordinance, you'd have, it's already been previously inspected and approved, so he's grandfathered.
No, there is no grandfathering of any lake ordinances.
But that would disqualify other users on the lake then, for that are grandfathered.
That's correct.
But we don't enforce that.
No, we don't, but the legal,
And I guess, do we
That-
want to play in devil's advocate,
no grandfathering of lake ordinances.
but do we want to go down that path? I mean, that's gonna create
The
some
burden
issues.
is then on him to take the town to court to allow him to put the boat on the water.
Yeah, I'm
Well,
not talking to him specifically. I'm just saying, I'm worried about other people that are sitting there that are grandfathered today. that we're gonna-
What other
we're gonna-
boats?
We're gonna disrupt their lives.
What other boats are
Exactly.
grandfathered?
I don't know. But I
Well,
think-
I'll give you an example. And we haven't discussed this yet, but wake boat's gonna come up, I'm sure.
yeah,
A wave
right.
boat where you can fill ballast to create waves has already been, as we all know, a very tough issue.
But that,
And it was an emotional discussion without any facts.
Mary, that's an ordinance right now, is it?
Excuse
Oh.
me?
Not prohibited.
It's not prohibited.
It is not prohibited.
No, so it's not grandfathered because it's allowed.
Well, what my point is
If
that.
we say no wave boats,
That houseboat was
they
just.
go away.
allowed. That houseboat's allowed. You're saying we're gonna change our ordinances to disqualify that houseboat now? The
If
guy
you
bought it.
propose
of
a-
course we are, Bob.
If you propose a length that's less than 33 feet, yes, you're going to prohibit it.
Okay, that one would probably, I'm just playing devil's advocate here, I'm not siding with anybody, believe me, but that's something like
No,
that.
no,
would go
no,
to
I
court.
agree.
Something like that would go to court.
So let me make a suggestion,
And
and
I
again,
think honestly,
I think
honestly we'd lose.
Well, no, you won't. So what is the reason to prohibit the length of a boat? What's the reason, you think?
Right now, the docks are only average of 20 feet long,
So
honestly.
if you have a boat that's 33 feet long, that means 13 feet of it is sticking out into the navigable water.
Look, I'm totally with you. Then how did we approve it? Because I don't know.
Because we didn't have a length before.
let me make a suggestion.
Okay,
May I make a different suggestion? And this could blow up too. There is only one, as I understand it, legal grandfathering approach in the state of Connecticut, and it has to do with zoning. And in that, and Bob, you may know this, it has to be a 3-year period of time.
Yep.
What if we took the initiative to say, we will define grandfathering as 3 or more years? Then we minimize what's already on the lake, except maybe one houseboat, and we maximize what shouldn't be on this lake for environmental safety and so many other reasons. Whether it be an enclosed cabin, a sink, a kitchen, however we want to word it.
I like that idea better, and I think we'll still have a problem, but it'll probably it'll probably stand up on its own a little better than the other option, my opinion.
I think the legal option, if we didn't have grandfathering, is, well, other lakes do it too. Candlewick is limited to 26, but Candlewick did grandfather those who were over 26.
Well, let me ask you this. What would, all right, so if I get a pontoon boat with a 26 footer, right? And I can put a 26 foot. Mine the new pontoon boat happens to have a second story with a slide and a diving board. Am I okay?
Well, that's another thing we should talk about. Should it be only one level?
Bingo. I agree. I agree. Because
there are lakes that prohibit more than one level of boat.
So that should be specific to our ordinance.
I believe it should be, yes.
Okay.
All right, say that again. Watercraft.
What I'm saying is that, well, right now the ordinance wouldn't, our revisions wouldn't disallow us to buy a second story with a slide and a diving board.
Watercraft had only one story, something to that effect.
Again, yeah, that's what we just said. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Question, Mary, you were differentiating between sailboats and pontoon boats and motorboats as far as length was concerned. I think we should just have one overall length for any vessel.
Okay, so we'll see a 25-foot powerboat on this lake. Could have a 135.
It will have a 135. Yeah.
Or 150.
Could have a one.
Or 150, yeah.
I think there's, I don't know. I think there's downsides.
I think the visual impact of a 26-foot pontoon boat is bigger than a 26-foot bow rider.
Yeah, it is. Definitely.
Well, then we better in the ordinance also address engines, and I'll tell you why. I was told a week ago that there's going to be a certain model of boat, ski boat, coming on this lake called Dynastar, which has only outboard engines, but the engine has been configured down to get to 150.
Configured down from what?
I believe 250.
No, that's not going to be acceptable because that's not the original manufactured engine.
Well, we better write it in the ordinance because it ain't in there now, which is why I wrote it in the ordinance.
We haven't accepted those in the past.
Well, that doesn't, and we didn't accept houseboats, and look what happened, and that was in the ordinance.
Well,
I do think we do have to be.
We didn't accept houseboats that were lived on temporarily or permanently or had a discharge toilet. We didn't define houseboats any other than that way.
Well, respectfully, I think we better put in engine being of the original manufacturer, because we're going to see that happening.
Yeah.
And the more people can't buy something that they want at 225 or 250 or 280 horsepower, I think the more we're going to see people trying to reconfigure engines.
So are you saying
especially since they've stopped manufacturing 135 horsepower inboard outboards? So
that's true.
Yeah.
Are you saying that the serial number is going to dictate the horsepower, even though the owner has derated it?
Yep. You got to go by the serial number of the engine. I used to do that. I used to call the manufacturers up all the time.
Okay.
Verify horsepowers.
Okay, so I'm that owner putting that boat in. I'm pulling up, Marine Patrol's there. My registration happens to say it's a 80 horsepower outboard.
Right.
But the serial number says it's a 250 outboard, right?
So it's going to take time to do the evaluation. So what you do is you give them a conditional acceptance to the lake based on a final review with the engine manufacturer. If the manufacturer says it's over horsepower, then you will be required to remove your boat from the lake.
And-
However, if the state of Connecticut has just said it's an 80 horsepower,
No, then
Who's
you got to
right?
take it. Then you got to take it to DMV and make sure they do their homework, because a lot of times they just rely on the seller, on the distributor saying that it's the right horsepower, because they're in collusion with the owner sometimes.
well,
Well,
I've suggested in the ordinance that the original engine horsepower at the time of manufacture is the assessed horsepower. No changes to an engine that are over the established horsepower limits are allowed to attempt to reduce an engine's horsepower.
Well, here's,
I believe that should be in the ordinance.
but here's an example of what could happen. I go to motor vehicle, I got the registration from the original owner I bought it from. This is a used boat.
Right?
By the way, here's the new engine I just put on the boat. I swapped out the old one. I put a new one on. It happens to be a 75, but really it's a 150. I get my registration from the state. It says 75, and actually I'm running a 150, and the serial number will confirm it's a 150 if Marine Patrol checks it. But typically they'll only look at the registration. That's why I noted that as one of my items. So how do you control it?
Then we go back to the procedures of inspection and say, as part of the inspection, you copy down the boat identification number as well as the identification number for the engine. And then we do some if we're suspect of the engine horsepower, we do some subsequent research. And if in fact it's over the horsepower, that person has to remove the boat from the lake. You give them a conditional acceptance to the lake, but upon research, if it's deemed that they're over the horsepower, they have to remove the boat.
So is that in our ordinances anywhere?
No.
I just wrote it.
Oh, you did? Okay, good.
I just wrote it in.
Because that's what I was saying. What you just said, Bob, should be annotated in the ordinance.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
in the ordinance on safety regulations of motorboats, water skiing, etc. In section 1, part C, we can put some language that says we need to check the ESN, and for, what did I just say? If over the HP, the watercraft will be removed.
Right.
Yeah, I'll wordsmith it, but.
All right, and then the other one I was brought up is, do we need any language for wake skiing?
For what?
Wake skiing.
What's that?
Is it allowed?
Isn't wake skiing the same as water skiing?
No.
Is that the surfing thing?
Wake skiing, you're literally like a foot and a half or 2 away from the engine.
It's like
onto a rope or just on a wakeboard.
Yeah, that's what Mike Nazo's boat is. It's a wave boat.
Right. Now the person skiing behind that is literally within a foot and a half of the prop.
I know. That sounds really dangerous to me.
No, that's not the problem. The problem is that it creates a wake that disrupts the bottom of the lake and the seawalls.
Oh, I totally agree. That's probably the biggest number one issue. But my question would be, are we approving wake skiing on Columbia Lake? If we are, and yes, should we have it annotated in this ordinance? Because we don't talk to it anywhere. We talk about water skiing, tubing. Water skiing and wake skiing, in my opinion, are 2 different things.
I agree. Totally.
Water skiing, I'm at, 72 inches of rope, or
70 feet.
70 feet, sorry, 70 feet of rope versus 3. And wake skiing, you don't have a rope, actually. Once you're up, you release the rope and you just ski on it like you're skiing at.
But why would we care?
Personally, I don't. I'm just asking, should we have anything annotated? We care about water skiers. We care about only having 2. I don't know. Maybe not.
Yeah, no, Bob, I think, first off, the town needs to understand this, because the Marine Patrol totally screwed this up this weekend. Water skiing by the state is defined as anything done behind the boat. That could be a tuber, a wake, you know, a
Okay,
kick
all
kneel
right,
board,
all right.
whatever that is.
Okay,
That's the current definition. I think your question is in terms of wake skiing. To me, the bigger issue is, should there be wave boats that create that type of
wait,
wave
yeah,
to allow that on the lake? So the bigger question is, should that watercraft be allowed on the lake? And that is going to be, you know, the $64,000 argument at LMAC. But I think with reasonable less emotion and facts, there should be a discussion. It should not be overridden by just one person who may have it, that boat.
Well, there's only one of those boats on the lake.
Correct. And would it be grandfathered?
No, there's no grandfathering.
Because there's no
No
grandfathering. So here we go. You know, I think it's going to become a very a tough issue, but it is something that probably should be provided to LMAC to say, should we be considering them on the lake or not?
Well, and I think Henry brought this up a few months ago and had some very good points about erosion of seawalls and things like that. So it's not a safety issue. It's more of an environmental issue, conditions of the lake bottom and conditions of the walls around the lake. So we may
I can
want to
tell
think
you
about
that, and I haven't revisited it, the research I did initially, there are at least 20 states who are either prohibiting or ensuring that these boats are at least 200 or 300 feet offshore.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
maybe
I've
that's the
actually-
way we do it. Maybe that's the way we
Yes.
address it, is they have to be 300 feet away from the shore.
Yes.
So they're basically in the middle of the lake, not disturbing the majority of the bottom or the seawalls.
yeah, now that could potentially go in as an ordinance, right?
Yes,
Correct.
very definitely.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right, good. So that was a good discussion. I think that would
Okay.
be a good change, because it would give you another 100 feet or so for the wake to dissipate before it hits the
Yeah.
seawall.
that's a
So-
good compromise, I think.
I'll throw that into the safety area. The safety ordinance someplace. Underwater skiing or in that area, and just say relative or specific to, or should it be in the town ordinance on which recreational watercraft we allow?
Probably under the definition of, no, I think it goes under
Water skiing.
we have
right?
setbacks where we have, you have to be 100 feet away from the shore.
Okay, that's the safety one.
Put it under the distance part of it.
Okay, I got it. Let me
And
get to that.
what was the length of the vessel you said, Mary? 26 feet, you said?
Yeah.
All right.
Should it be 26 feet and less, or less than 26 feet?
Well, do they make a 26-foot?
They
I
make,
don't know, there's
they-
a 25 foot now, but
so it should be 26 feet and less.
26, yeah, that sounds good, and less.
okay, hold on. Let me get back to that one. Let's see. So there seems to be no consensus on having maximum lengths by watercraft, sailboat, pontoon. You just want 26 or less?
I think so. I think that's easier that way. It's more all encompassing.
Yeah, I mean, a 26-foot bow rider is pretty big, isn't it?
Yeah, it
But if
is,
it's
but
only,
I
if
could,
it's only powered by an 80 horsepower outboard, it's not going anywhere. No one's going to buy it.
or 150 diesel. That's all you can get now.
Oh, you can get a diesel on this thing? I didn't know you could get a diesel.
You can get a
Yep.
center console 26 foot with a diesel engine,
Yep.
150,
Oh, wow.
150 horsepower.
Yeah.
No one's
That's an
gonna,
out-
no one's gonna buy that on this lake. No one's gonna buy that on this lake.
I never say never.
You never
No
know.
one's gonna buy a houseboat. And now they're the thing.
All that is a glorified pontoon boat.
It was built and designed as a houseboat by the
I know,
manufacturer.
but it's on a pontoon body, on a
This is,
pontoon hull.
Yeah,
This is a 150 outboard, you're saying, or an inboard?
inboard. It's an inboard.
It's
that-
135 horsepower inboard, outboard.
The only 150 you can get anymore is a diesel inboard outboard. I
Right.
think it's made by, oh, it's not Mercury, I forget, Volvo. It's made by Volvo. So the maximum length, just go to 26 feet for all boats,
yeah.
all watercraft?
Yep.
Length Okay,
And I think we're good with that because
26
there's
feet.
precedent of that. The Candlewood Lake has that. So if we get to DEP and they start questioning it, we can say, look,
Is-
you already approved it at Candlewood Lake.
well, Deep demanded Candlewick go to 26 feet.
Right, right.
That was a huge
Are-
discussion.
Is this where we add this single story as well?
Yep.
Or-
Yeah, I put that in there.
Okay.
File
Single
save.
level.
Story or level,
I would say level.
okay.
So no basements.
No balconies.
All right, I got rid of that, and now this is where did I put, watercraft only one level.
So one of the things that, and I think it sent it to you guys, is the state prohibits self-propelled water skis and surfboards, hoverboards, things like that.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a
Yeah,
state.
Mary, you put that in there, Mary, right?
Want to reiterate something to that effect?
And what Mary wrote was no person shall engage in any device for airborne purposes such as
The water,
flyboards, hoverboards, and foil boards.
right?
Yeah.
Those are prohibited by the state.
Well,
Kite sailing or
we might as well
parasailing.
prohibit them too.
Well, we don't want to duplicate things necessarily, but is there a way to say, not be so specific, but say no vessels above the water or below the surface of the water? In other words, submarines, you know?
I think, what is the downside of putting in such as, particularly since the state has already said such as
Right.
hydrofoil
Oh, I
boards?
think you can put in such as, but again, to my earlier comment, what about the unknowns that we don't know about that are coming, that are being designed and created today? You know that device that you tie to your legs and you pump it off of a jet ski and you get airborne?
Yes,
That's
it's a jetpack.
prohibited.
Yeah, but what is that?
It's
That's
called
it.
a jetpack.
Yeah.
Where
Okay,
is that prohibited?
Should we list that?
We should maybe. Where is that prohibited, Bob?
It's not in our current ordinances, but we have talked about that. And I think
Well, we need to put it
if I
in.
recall, Henry said that it falls under the category of an unmanned vessel or something like that, which is prohibited.
Where?
I'm
I
not
didn't see anything on it.
I'm not sure. Well,
Yeah.
it's like a radio controlled boat. You can't have those.
So why don't you just add Mary to
Jetpack.
section G?
Yeah,
Add that specific item to section G?
I think we should.
What I would
And
also
again,
suggest is you say no hydrofoils or jetpacks, because hydrofoils are accepted in the state of Connecticut with permission from the commissioner of DEP or the Coast Guard.
Well, we
So-
already had kite skiing and parasailing. Back in 1987, there wasn't a jetpack. There wasn't a hydrofoil. I think
Right.
we should put them in and just say such as.
Yeah, I think
Any
that's a good idea.
device for airborne purposes.
Yeah,
And/or we should probably put underwater. That jetpack was underwater by 12 feet. You
Yeah.
could hit one hell of a rock on this lake in 12 feet.
well, and you could also, there's one-man submarines, these electric powered submarines that somebody's going to come up with.
Yeah, I'd like to get one of those.
And
Get it now, Bob.
Can I grandfather that?
You'll be grandfathered. All right. No person shall engage in any device for airborne or underwater purposes such as jetpack, flyboards, hydrofoil.
Yeah.
Foil.
Yep.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, got it. I gotta save this file. Save as. This is draft 2.
so we're going to stick with the horsepower limits we have, right?
Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah, I don't think speed limits are tough because I think the enforcement part of that, it gets very involved. You have to have certified equipment. You have to have the personnel that are certified to use it. I know I have fought in court with speed guns, radar detectors and radar. I mean, I've won a couple of cases because I was speeding and they didn't have the speed gun calibrated properly. There's a lot of stuff that gets involved with that. So I think the reason we have horsepower limits is to limit the speed, basically. So I don't think we need limits as well as horsepower limits.
I'm fine with that. I did put in a section, and I guess it's in the other ordinance. Let me get there. Where's the horsepower? I gotta find it now. Uh, is it in the limiting
Is
motorboat
it limiting motorboat section?
section, or is it in the safety section? Oh, it's not in that one. Wait, I'll get to the other one. Water skiing, must be above here immediately. Where's the horsepower one?
You know, it's buried somewhere.
Oh, here it is. Now, how did I miss that? It's in here someplace. No person shall operate a motorboat. Figure 8, no person. I might have goofed in saving something and didn't get the horsepower in here. Because what I put in was if there was an electric boat, what the hell is that? Or a jet, it had to be converted to horsepower.
Yeah, what happens with the jet skis, they're measured in kilowatts.
Right.
A lot of them are built in Canada, which is a metric system up there, so they do kilowatts instead of horsepower. And when I used to be on Marine Patrol, we used to convert that to horsepower. There's a formula that you use, and I gave every Marine Patrol officer the formula, and they would convert it.
Well, we're going to have to do that for electric engines.
Right, exactly. You have to do that with electric, because those are measured in kilowatts.
Okay, the original other engine types such as jet or electric propelled engines will be converted to horsepower to assess if they meet the horsepower limits.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
What section was that?
Good.
I found it. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
What
So we're
section was
good with
that?
that. Excuse me?
What section was that?
Section C of the regulation of motorboats. This is the safety regulation of motorboats ordinance, section C.
Got it.
This-
Okay,
this
yeah, I
is-
see it. I
yeah.
see it, yeah.
I'll
Yeah,
have to
what that-
It's
wordsmith all that.
Article 3, Section C.
Yeah, I'll have to wordsmith all that. It's
So I
section-
think, so getting back to that, I would agree that we keep the horsepower the way it is, but not talk about any speed limits.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think
Well,
we're gonna
how-
get a,
It's
Shouldn't
either
it,
either you have one or you have the other. You can't have both. So I think the horsepower is going to limit things, especially if we say 26 feet, because somebody's going to put an 80 horsepower on a 26-foot boat. That's not going anywhere, you know. So,
Yeah, if they want to do it, what the hell? But,
should there be kind of a general comment that says all boat owners should operate or attempt or operate their their vessels in a safe manner, blah blah blah, at all speeds, and be in control of the vessel?
that's part of the state boating regulations.
Yeah.
Okay,
Don't do it. If they don't do it, you
so
can on that.
so that's really learned or granted under your safe boating license.
yeah, that's
Okay.
kind of the boat certification. Oh.
Or like all vessel operators shall operate their vehicles in accordance with the
State
safe
boating.
boating certificate regulations per the state of Connecticut or something.
Yeah, we should have that as the beginning of all ordinances, I think.
Yeah, that might be a good idea.
You can say unless otherwise noted by these ordinances, because we override some of the state regulations.
Right.
You can override a state regulation if you are stricter. You cannot make it less strict.
Correct. Like the sunset one,
Yeah,
our
the
sunset one.
that we have is contradictory to what the state says. And it's always an issue when you first stop somebody, because it's like, well, the state says this. I said, no, the local ordinance overrides the state in this particular instance.
Correct.
So should it be in the purpose section of this where we reference a kind of a point, where we point back to the safe boating certificate with regard to safety and safe operating?
I think it should be right at the very beginning, yes.
okay, what ordinance are you on, so I can pull that up?
We were just discussing where the speed is really taught during your safe boating certificate
Correct.
course.
I think in general, Bob, we should say that all state voting laws should be adhered to.
Right. There you
go.
So in the purpose,
With the exception of anything noted herein.
all state voting laws. Go again, Bob.
All state voting laws shall be adhered to on Columbia Lake
Okay,
with the exception of any local lake ordinances herein,
okay,
because we do have the ability to override the state if we are stricter.
correct. Okay, so that should go in the purpose section of our
front.
motorboats.
Yeah, right up
Good.
front. Then
Good.
now all of a sudden we can go back and say, you didn't adhere to the state boating law.
Okay,
But should we be specific to per the safety boating certificate license or something? No?
I would just say state boating laws.
All right, okay.
because that does include your boat certification.
That includes registration, that includes safety, that includes PFDs, it includes water skiing, I mean, it's all inclusive.
Yeah, all right.
And
What's
it's-
interesting about the safe boating course is they never teach you how to run a boat. I hate to say that, but they don't.
You're right.
There's no practical. Yeah,
You're right.
Here's your certificate. I don't know how to drive a boat.
It's like taking the written test for driving a car and not taking the driving test.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Anyway. Okay, yeah, this one's good. I think we've hammered that one out.
Yeah, okay, so the next thing I had was hours of operation.
Hours of operation.
Feel that 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. is the right amount of hours.
All right, where are we? That's on the other.
That's on Article 3. I think it's Section A.
Yeah, it's on the motorboat one.
Right.
Isn't it? Yeah.
That's under safety regulations.
Oh, yeah,
Regulation of motorboats.
I'm getting there. I keep opening and closing these. Okay, yes. Article 3, section, where is it? 1A?
Article 3, Section A, regulation of motorboats on Columbia Lake.
I think this is fine.
Well, it says internal combustion engine. I think it should say any engine because the electric engine is not internal combustion.
Oh, I did put in no person shall operate by internal jet or electric engines on the waters of Columbia Lake during the following hours.
I just think you say any engine.
But if you say any engine, you are prohibiting the trolling engine of a fisherman.
That's exactly right. That's my point.
Well, okay.
Do they need to be out there at midnight or do they need to be out there at 5 o'clock in the morning? Because
Well,
the
then
potential
that's
is
a different discussion than the engine.
well, the potential is that, yeah, I have an electric engine, but I also have an 80 horsepower outboard that I'm going to use to get across the lake, and then I'll use my electric engine.
Which happened at 5 a.m. a week ago,
Right.
according to someone on Upper Woodland Terrace.
It happens all the time. So
Are we suggesting a change that is limiting no engines from 10 to 7?
or do we change the hours?
So if I'm a rowboat operator, I can launch?
Yep, a crew,
Yep.
have at it. A kayak, have at it.
So I
Have a
want
board.
I want to fish between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. I can use a kayak or a rowboat.
Sure.
Okay.
I mean,
But what does that-
I'm just throwing this out. I know there's going to be pushback from the fisher people, but you know,
Well, that shouldn't be our concern because that'll be the board's concern and let them change it. Is it the right thing to do to prohibit all engines on the lake at nighttime is essentially what we're asking.
I don't know. I think it is, but I think we ought to have some wiggle rooms for somebody who wants to come on the lake at 5 a.m. because fishermen do start fishing at like 5 a.m., you know, maybe sooner, but.
Yeah, I think that's why we just have to enforce trolling. And you know what? At least a couple of the fishermen who are out in front of my house early in the morning, and Muffy is a 4 a.m.er, they're usually trolling.
Yeah.
She'll tell me if they're using their engine. But you know,
why don't we just
I don't
leave
know.
it? Let's leave it the way it is, and let's leave.
yeah. This it's a bigger issue. It becomes an us versus them issue. The people who want to get on the lake who don't own it really can become a big issue.
We
And I
don't
don't
want
know if we need to create that.
the fishermen. let's leave it the way it is and leave it as internal combustion engines, so they can use electric engines. Okay,
Electric motors?
Why don't we just say trolling engines only?
well, but you control with a gasoline powered engine.
Oh,
Well,
Is
Well-
low powered way of moving your vessel and dragging a fishing line behind it. It has nothing to do with the type of engine.
well, yeah, but we don't want people to have their internal combustion engine on.
So leave it the way it is. It says you cannot use an internal combustion engine between 10 PM and 7 AM.
but then you can put a jet ski on it.
No, that's
anytime.
an internal combustion engine.
That's internal combustion. I think you ought to
Okay.
have something specific to trolling.
What's your
Trolling has to do with low speed and dragging a fishing line behind you.
Is that
Yeah.
an internal combustion engine trolling?
No, it would be an electric trolling motor. Maybe
Oh,
we
okay.
specifically state that
I'm on the sound boating a lot, and guys are out there trolling with 600 horsepower engines. They're trolling. They're
but
pulling.
that's wrong. I don't agree with that. Because if their engine's on, they're gonna use it to move faster somewhere eventually. They're not
That's-
gonna keep going.
Which is why internal combustion engines are prohibited, because you're not going to go fast with an electric powered motor.
What I'm saying is, I agree with that. Keep it prohibited, but allow them to use a trolling electric motor. Right?
Yeah, we're not saying we're not disallowing, we just never disallowed. Do we have
Okay, all
to,
right.
do we have to say trolling motors are acceptable or something, you know?
There's no such thing as a trolling motor. There's an electric motor, there's an internal combustion motor, that's it. Eventually you're gonna get electric motors that are rated at 80 horsepower.
A trolling motor is a self-contained marine propulsion unit that includes an electric motor, propeller, and control system. That's the definition. But it doesn't say anything about horsepowers. What's the difference? Trolling motors are measured in static thrust.
Right,
They can only go at slow trolling speed,
right.
whereas electric outboard or outboard motors provide higher power. Do we need to say anything?
I think we'd leave it the way it is.
Bob, what's your thought? I'm confusing myself here by just trying to figure out what they are.
I was just Googling it, same as you, but I think you ought to
Maybe
specifically state that only trolling motors only.
Maybe if we say trolling motors
But
at a slow speed.
Somebody could argue that I have a 3 horsepower Honda outboard, and that's a trolling motor.
No, it's not though, by definition.
No, not by the definition.
It has to be electric.
Yeah.
20 years ago, guys were trolling for fish. There was no such thing as electric motor.
Okay, then maybe we need to be specific on the size of their trolling motors. If we're gonna regulate IOs and outboards, let's regulate trolling motors,
Oh,
right? You can't have more than what's the biggest trolling motor we allow?
what is the horsepower on a trolling motor? Usually, trolling motors measure between a 1/2 horsepower and 2 horsepower.
But it still could be an internal combustion engine, right?
No,
No, it says it's a
trolling motors aren't internal combustion engines.
They were
Well,
20.
I hear what you're saying. You can use an outboard to go trolling with a bow rider. I hear you, but
I could
that's
have a 2 horsepower Honda outboard, and I could use it for trolling. That's what people use on their dinghies, on big boats.
all right. We need some language around it somehow, but I don't know what it is. But
The way it's written,
Well,
no internal combustion engine shall be used between 10 PM and 7.
so by default, that allows you to use your trolling motor.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
I guess I'm okay with that.
5 years 5 years from now, in 5 years from now, when an electric engine becomes 50 horsepower, then maybe we have to worry about it, but.
Well, I think they are now. I mean, electric engines, but that's a different topic. Don't worry about that.
So, but as part of this, okay, so let's just leave it the way it is, but as part of this, it starts to talk about the periods of time, like April 1st to September 30th from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m., October 1 to March 31st, 6 p.m. Why don't we coordinate it with the lake drawdown or something like that? Because right now, it says after October 1st, I can do whatever I damn well please.
Wait,
Read the things.
so what is your recommendation?
Well, somehow we coordinate it with the lake drawdown.
That
Says
instead of saying between October 1st and March 31st?
Well, it says October 1 to September 30th, 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. October 1 to March 31st, 6 p.m. to 8 a.m. Are those the right times? Is that what we want? We could leave it the way it is, which is fine.
Well, I don't know, tradition. I think it is from a perspective, or maybe it should be October 15th. And who cares that we on November 1st do this?
Yeah, you missed 2 weeks on the odd years.
Yeah, maybe we should say between October 15th from 6, because the sun goes down by 5:30 or 6 anyways by October 15th. How many boats do you want out there
It gets too cold to fish anyways.
kibitzing around? I'd suggest we'd say change October 1 to October 15, which happens to coincide with the drawdown every other year.
On the even years, yeah.
Yeah, but you know, it makes sense that it's in the realm of we're preparing for winter and the drawdown.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes. I thought that was my point, Mary. You picked up on that. Yeah.
Bob, do you agree? Just October 15th to March 31st?
Yeah, I'm okay with that. Yeah.
Okay. We got through that one.
Good.
Bob, you had a lot of good stuff on here.
Yeah, they were just notes, but I think we touched on some of them.
Yeah.
One of the things
I'm still kind of hung up on this trawling thing.
on what? On what?
Where we the trawling motor.
Oh,
No
we're
person
back
shall
there.
operate. No person shall operate any motorboat internal combustion engine as a trawling motor on Columbia Lake between the hours of 10 p.m. and 7 a.m.
Okay, go. Yeah, that's good. Go for it.
I'm
Say
thinking
that again.
I'm
Wait.
thinking we need to be specific and state that you're not allowed to use your internal combustion engine as a trawling motor. You can only use an electric trawling motor. I mean, by default.
Okay.
Okay, but the way you said that, to play devil's advocate, that means I can go 30 miles an hour with it then. Because it's not a trolling motor.
Oh, I'm so confused. Okay.
No,
I liked
no,
what
no.
you said, Bob, too,
It's-
there.
Specific, Bob, but you know, the too specific you get, the more I can find exceptions.
No person shall operate. Go ahead, Bob.
So right now is I can't use an internal combustion engine at all, whether it's trolling speed, medium speed, high speed, whatever. I can't use it.
No person shall operate their internal combustion engine as a trawling motor between the hours of 10 p.m. and 7 a.m.
Okay, so what if I want to water ski then? Can I water ski? It's
No.
not trolling.
Well, okay, back to my original comment, that's why I wanted to
Including-
be specific to you. I agree with what you're saying. So I wanted to be specific and state that we have to have something in there. You can only use a trawling motor.
Including at a trolling speed.
Why don't we just leave it the way it is?
Because I think what I'm saying is they're obviously abusing that, Bob,
Yeah, but not
and nobody's catching them.
not to the extent that, I mean, how many times have they abused it this summer?
But it's kind of a gray area.
It's still a gray
Kind
area.
of a gray
Yeah.
area. It's not, if we look at the ordinance, it's not specific. You can't pinpoint one thing. By default, they can, they're gonna read into this that they can use their internal combustion engine as a trawling motor. And what I'm trying to say is they shouldn't.
No,
be able
right
to-
now it says you can't use an internal combustion engine at all, no matter what.
I know,
you
but
can't
they
use
are
it.
using it.
Yeah, but then they're in violation. Then the Marine Patrol.
What I'm saying is they're thinking in their minds, they're reading between the lines and saying that I'm troweling with my internal combustion engine. It's the same thing.
Can't
That's
use
what I'm saying. They're thinking to themselves it's the same thing, and we know it's not.
But this first sentence is absolute. It says you cannot use an internal combustion
Look,
engine.
I agree with you. Let's just leave it. We'll beat this to death.
Let the Marine Patrol deal with it. You know, let them get up early for once in a while. and-
Yeah, let them do a 3 a.m. spot check once in a while. All right.
God, we can't get them out of 10. Stop that.
All
Okay,
right.
One other thing,
put
I
it back to where it was.
so one
Yeah,
other
put it back to where it was. That's good. Put it back to where it was.
thing that I thought we should add is that something about alcoholic beverages and illicit substance shall not be used by the operator of a vessel. Now, we can't do breathalyzers, we can't do anything, but we can state, and other lakes have done this, is that absolutely no alcoholic beverages or illegal substances shall be used by the operator.
Isn't that a state regulation?
I'm not sure it is or not.
It comes under the safe boating certificate course.
It is a regulation for Connecticut State.
Now, I think you can still drink and drive. You just can't. You have to be under the limit.
Oh, I don't think so. That when that little kid it became her law,
I'm not so sure.
Emily's law or whatever.
The last DEEP seminar I went to spent a lot of time about how they do breathalyzers and how it's legal. You've got to bring people ashore. They have to be ashore for half an hour to get their land legs back. I mean, it has to be a certified person doing the test, all that stuff. So I'm not sure. I mean, I don't think it hurts by putting something in there because it covers us. Again,
No person may operate a boat while under the influence of alcohol or drugs.
right.
A person under 21 shall be considered to be under the influence of intoxicating liquor if the ratio is 0.02.
So we don't want to go down that route of determining if they're drunk or not.
No,
None whatsoever.
no, but that's the boating regulation. I mean, the state regulation.
Yeah, but we're talking about levels of intoxication.
Yeah, they can do that.
Yeah. Trained to do it. We're not trained to do it. We don't want to go down that route. So I think it's easier just to say none whatsoever, so that if in fact it gets to a point, it's easy to determine whether somebody's been drinking or not.
So do you want to just take no person may operate a boat while under the influence of alcohol or drugs,
Yes.
period?
Is that
Okay.
in the original ordinance?
No, I don't think so, but it is in the state boating. I just quoted it from the state boating regulations.
They measure
Well, then
intoxication, don't they?
yeah, so that's covered in our purpose statement.
No, the state measures the level of intoxication. If I have one beer, I'm still under the limit.
Really?
According to the state.
No person may operate a boat while under the influence of alcohol or drugs. Is that what we want to say? That's
Yeah.
what the state is saying. Yes, they go on to say the ratio, and it's going to be, I mean, 0.02. I'm not even sure I could have a glass of wine and not be a 0.02.
We don't want to get into the weeds of what's the level. I just want
Yeah, no, you just want to repeat what the state says.
right.
Is what you're,
There's
okay.
another lake that has it in their ordinances. I forget which one it was, but
Where should it be? In which ordinance are you suggesting that be?
I'm not sure where it goes.
Well, why don't I throw it in and offer it up someplace and we can debate it at LMAC?
Yeah, take your pick.
Yeah, just
I'll
put it in.
just
I'm sure that'll come up at LMAC.
I had it under Article 3. I think I put in an E after Article 3, Section E,
Oh, okay. Well, let me throw it in there.
because it talks about hours of operation. It talks about other kinds of operation.
What the heck? My computer just went nuts. Stop that. Okay. No person shall operate any motorboat, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. I would just throw it in. If people bitch about it, then we'll take it out. But
Well, I hope they don't, but
yeah, I know.
saved.
I'm going through some of my notes, which I think I red marked on things I sent you guys. On the next section, which talks about water skiing, shall we also say water skiing and tubers, or the state defines water skiing as anybody pulled behind a boat?
Well, I did put in our ordinances, water skier, tuber, or other towing activities on the waters of Columbia Lake.
I think
Yeah,
that's good because there's been pushback from people that are tubing saying, oh, it's not water skiing, it's tubing. You know?
Yeah, well, we had it this weekend. There are 3 kids on a tube,
Yeah.
and
The problem is that the state lets people sell tubes that hold 3 or 4 or 5 people, you know?
well, I have one that holds 3, but then I have adults who only 2 can fit on it, so
Right.
that's why
But
we
there's
have.
those hot dogs that they have that you can put 5 people on.
Well, that's something we ought to talk about. Should we allow 3 people on a tube?
No,
Well, we ought to have a discussion on it because
Yeah,
the big tubes are made for 3 people, and typically what happens is you'll have a younger child with 2 adults. So I think
yeah.
it's something we ought to consider and talk more about.
Well, and frankly, not knowing, I violated the law when all my high school kids come every Memorial Day, and we used to throw 3 on a tube and never had an issue until I was stopped. I never knew it. You know, my sense is up to 3 on a tube is okay, as long as there are 3 spots in the boat in case we have to get them back in the boat.
and how many spotters do you have?
Well, if you're allowed
think one of the-
eight
yeah, one of
people
the-
on a boat, you have 1 spotter.
Yeah, one of the concepts is 1 spotter can keep an eye on 2 people. Can 1 spotter keep an eye on 3 people?
Oh, of course, yes.
Well, I think
I can tell you when a kid falls off a tube, whether it's 2 or 3.
I would like to entertain moving it to 3, but I think it should be a fuller LMAC discussion.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
That's my opinion.
I would concur, and
So
I'll
then,
find,
so then do you do 3 water skiers?
no,
No,
I think you say 2 water
What's-
skiers and
what's
no
the
more than
difference?
3 tubers.
because
play
you got
devil's
2
advocate.
ropes,
What's
you
the
got,
difference?
you got 2 ropes versus 1. You know, you got 3 ropes and it's.
No, you could, no. If you say 3 tubers, I can put 3 tubes behind my boat.
3 tubers on 1 tube.
Or
Well,
2
yeah,
tubes, or
I
2
think we need to
tubes.
be, I think it needs to be specific, 3 tubers on one tube, that's
Well, wait a minute, I
capable.
can do 2 tubers on 2 tubes, right?
No, 3
Um,
tubers on only 1 tube.
Well, no, but I can do 2 tubers on, 1 tube per person. I can pull 2 tubes.
Yeah, I think there's a
Huh?
lot of
Yeah, you can,
opportunity here. We wanted, I agree with you, so I think we ought to spend a little more time on this section. And maybe get additional input on it,
Yeah,
because,
we should.
because you're right,
It's
I
how
didn't
you
think about
write it.
No, you're right, Bob, because you could have 4 people on 2 tubes, right?
No, I'm still saying 3 people, but you could have 2 tubes. You could have 2 and
You could
1.
have 2 tubes, right, right.
My
Well, what,
kids always do battle tubes, 1 guy on each tube, and they try to knock.
no, I
each-
hear you. So what prevents me from having 2 3-seater tubes with 6 people on the back?
You gotta be.
Well, how about,
Gotta
or
be
only,
specific, right? Gotta be
or
specific.
only 1 tube with a maximum of 3 people on the tube?
I agree with that.
No, I think 2 tubes is fine. Maximum,
I
but 2 tubes.
I would
look,
never put
two-
2 tubes together.
But
And I
2
will-
tubes,
All
but
the-
2 tubes,
all
you're
the-
saying, Bob, 2 tubes with a single person?
Yeah, oh yeah.
No way.
We
It
do
happens all the time. They do it
Well,
all the time.
let me tell you the safety issue of that, because I've seen it. You want a concussion when 2 tubes collide? It's one thing when a kid falls off a tube. It's another thing when 2 tubes collide. And I've seen it, and I've seen the accident in the ocean. It wasn't pretty. I would never suggest. 2
Mary,
tubes.
it's the same as 2 water skiers.
It is not.
They could
I'm
run
sorry.
into each other.
I just,
Well,
I
I
would have a real
think the difference
safety
is the
issue with
2,
that.
I think the difference is the 2 tubers try to crash into each other and the 2 water skiers don't.
Exactly.
I think
And that's why the accident happened.
But
we
I
can
tell you
discuss,
what,
let's,
I don't-
let LMAC discuss it.
I think LMAC should discuss it because I
Yep.
think there's a lot of
I
2
agree.
tubes. There's a lot of boats with 2 tubes behind it today. So.
Wow, I've never seen 2 tubes.
You haven't?
I've seen 3 people on 1. Yeah,
Oh,
I
no,
haven't-
there's a lot of 2 tubes, Mayor.
wow.
A lot of different boats too.
Well, let's bring it to LMAC. We'll throw it in as only one tube with max of 3 for further discussion. For further discussion.
Did you want to, I put some things in like, drones that follow your boat, are they allowed? Should we have language
Drones?
in there for drones?
Oh,
No,
we need to,
drones are prohibited over any state-owned property. So if you say that water is owned by the state, they're prohibited.
But I've
Yeah.
seen some drones following boats. They got to
It's
self.
still over the water. You can't do it.
No, I
Now,
know. but Do we
we
need, we
need
don't
to-
have any drones in our regulations, do we?
no, we
No.
need to put drones in our regulation. We absolutely do. I have more people to my right and to my left who now own them, who I have said, these are against the law. This Saturday, I can send you the pictures they took of me. I was furious. They're all over the lake now. We really do need.
Mary, that's against the law for them to take pictures of you without your consent.
I know it is, and I told them that. I read them the federal regs as well as the state regs.
Okay,
However, the state regs do say you have if posted, we are not posted as a state park or forest. Therefore, we may not be under that law.
so why don't we preclude it then? I agree.
Just someplace we need to put 2 drones in.
Okay.
And, I mean, just say they're prohibited. By federal law, technically they're prohibited.
Right.
However,
Oh, I did. Yeah, I agree with that. Let's put something in there, but
Yeah,
I
I
have
had a-
another one.
I had a kid pull up on his telephone the federal regs to show it to me this weekend. And he had a different site and he said, I can do this. And it's like, no, you can't. It's unbelievable.
So let me ask you this. I'm gonna sell my house next week on the lake and I got a realtor come over and they use a drone. They're not allowed to go over the lake and take photos?
No.
Touche, Bob. And you know what I was told? And why did that multi-million-dollar mansion 4 houses down just have a drone over it? Look at the pictures when they went up for sale.
Yeah.
Touche.
Um,
So,
All right,
I
so
think-
let's put that in. One of the other things on the
add drones. Wait, add drones. Okay.
Article 2, Section E,
Oh, where are we?
Article 2, which is motorboats on the lake, it talks about recreational watercraft. I think we should also have something about commercial watercraft are prohibited.
Wait, where's this?
Article 2, Section E, which is
Oh, wait,
prohibiting certain uses of Columbia Lake.
limiting motorboat. I gotta get to that one. Okay, section.
Article
I'm at
2,
section.
Section E,
Article 2. I'm at section 3. Hold on. No, I didn't add every ordinance section in. So
it talks about residential watercraft on the lake. I think we should also have something that says commercial watercraft are prohibited.
why? What do you mean by commercial?
Somebody's gonna have a rental boat that they take out with 20 people on it.
oh,
Wait, say that again?
you're saying yeah, like a pontoon boat for hire.
Pontoon boat for hire, I'm gonna have 20 people pay me $20 a piece, and I'm gonna take them out fishing on the lake.
The only exception would be our lake consultant, but
Well,
no commercial. I hear what you're saying. No
Just
commercial.
anticipating,
are the kayaks we rent considered a commercial boat?
well, that's a good
Yeah.
question, that although the town is exempt from any regulations. So,
Yeah, no commercial motorized watercraft or just no commercial?
no, I'm just throwing it out, just to,
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. I think it's wise because God knows
just,
people.
let's talk about
Yeah.
it. The next
Yeah.
one is under radio-controlled motorboats. Those are, I think radio-controlled sailboats should also be prohibited.
Wait, paddle boards, pontoon, electric jet skis. What do we put in here?
Old motorboat.
Radio controlled why don't we just say watercraft?
Okay, that's good. That's even better. Yep.
That encompasses it all. Okay.
And that's
Got it.
where that houseboat that are used as permanent residents, I think somehow we have to address that.
Oh, I took permanent residents out of.
Yeah.
houseboats, but we probably should say any watercraft that would temporary, because those new floatable tents are, somebody was gonna buy one, and I said, I don't think you should.
And I think, Bob, I think you addressed this about grills on boats and things like that. Maybe we say that there's no cooking devices, no sleeping capabilities, or no toilet devices on any vessels.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah.
Wait, hold on, temporary, permanent. What
Because
what am I putting, temporary or permanent?
Sleeping, cooking, or toilet facilities.
Well, that's why I asked in one of my notes, I said, can we have a toilet on a pontoon boat? A
No,
contained,
On this, I
contained
don't
port,
think you need one.
I mean, think about it, a contained porta potty, instead of going in the lake, they can go in a porta potty.
oh, well,
Bob, the lake is 1.5 miles long and 1 mile wide. Come on, you need to go to the bathroom, go back to your house.
No, look, I'm just playing devil's advocate on a lot of this stuff, because it could come up.
You
That's
know,
why
Yeah, you're
I wanna-
right.
opens the door to, oh, is this a chemical toilet or is it discharge toilet or?
Yeah,
whatever.
it could be,
Gonna
yeah,
inspect it, you know.
all the above.
I don't know if we want to get into. Ugh.
So then what we're saying is our Marine Patrol has no ordinances or guidance to follow with regard to toilets on boats.
That's right. That's right.
So you're saying there's no toilets allowed? Is that implied? That
But
no
if-
toilets are allowed?
that means
We
it's-
can't, we should say it if we're gonna say it.
Well, yeah, that's my point.
But if we say no temporary, permanent sleeping, cooking, or toilet facilities,
All right, so we'll leave it at that. I did have another one that I would it's kind of a nit for me. Clockwise, counterclockwise.
oh God, that's a tradition you're gonna find hard to change.
But should we be specific? Should we have a recommended statement in here? Because people don't know. A lot of the new people that haven't read the ordinances have no idea, and they go the opposite way all the time.
Wait, there is no ordinance right now.
There is none, but I was always taught counterclockwise.
Ugh,
Some of the older people do it clockwise.
no, ugh.
The majority of the boats that go on Columbia Lake go counterclockwise, not, and some of them don't.
Wait, the boats that go by my house every night, wait, this is counterclockwise?
Yeah.
And this is clockwise. Okay, so yeah, they go counterclockwise. You're right. Okay, I gotta figure
Yeah.
this out.
Mary,
But why would you do one versus the other instead of both?
it's a safety issue.
It's the safety issue with regard to safe boating certificate, port and starboard, with regard to driving your boat. And
Ah,
a lot of lakes have it specifically stated in their guidance, in their guidelines.
And this is
So,
what,
so I'm not saying one, we should
No,
say it's either one or the other. I'm saying we should advise people to go counterclockwise, because that's kind of historically what we've been doing. And it just gives the person some direction, a boat owner some direction to go.
it's not a regulation, but it's suggested.
Yeah, it's suggested. I'm thinking, how do we put it in as a suggestion?
add a
So maybe we just bring it as a talking item to LMAC, okay? We can just leave it.
Okay.
no, I
'Cause We
started-
don't need to solve it. I just think we ought to talk about it. That's all.
Okay, I'm putting something in that we'll talk about it.
CW/CCW question mark.
Watercraft direction. Counterclockwise, clockwise.
I'm gonna break off at 9 o'clock too, so.
Yeah, I need to, I've got some other things going on. Okay, so where are we? I think we've really addressed a fair amount of this stuff.
There's a little bit of wordsmithing that needs to be done on a couple of items that I think we can kind of talk about later, but you know, changing motorboat to boating, you know, I mean, all kind, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's minor stuff.
Yeah, it's minor stuff, so I don't think we need to talk about that.
You got drones down
Yeah,
here.
the other nit I had was, if you're a pontoon boat operator, why are you driving around with your docking lights on?
I agree, but that's not a regulation. That is
But
an
but from a
operational issue
safety,
that the Marine Patrol should govern.
right,
Wait.
because it's a safety issue, because you can't see your port and starboard lights if you're blinded by docking lights.
Right.
What are docking lights? Those big headlights?
Yeah, the big
Yes.
headlights.
Oh, that
People
annoys the heck out
drive
of me.
people drive their pontoon boats like they're driving their cars. And
Yes.
the whole purpose of navigation lights is to determine which way they're going and whether they're coming to your port or starboard side.
Well, and also you want to get your night vision going and not be blinded by the headlights.
Totally agree.
Which I am every time they come around.
Yeah.
Just
There's
just
only-
something I think that
So
we could have a little discussion on. We don't need to solve it here.
I think that's an educational thing for the Marine Patrol.
Yeah, agree. But Marine Patrol is usually off the lake by the time your docking lights are on.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Well, then we talk about hours of operation for Marine Patrol.
Well, there
Yes,
there is an element of LMAC who wants to suggest a volunteer Marine Patrol after hours.
No, not gonna work.
Well, you can say no, no, no. There are people who want to discuss it.
No, I think
Yeah,
it's
we
open
could-
for discussion, but my
who-
feeling is there's a
who are
liability.
well trained.
Whose boat
who
are
are-
they gonna use? I mean, there's all kinds of issues.
Well, who would be trained as any other Marine Patrol person, go through all the training. They just don't want to take the money. But when things happen after 10 PM, they want to have the ability to tell people to get off the lake. That happened this
Well,
weekend. I got.
I had,
text from somebody.
I had something in my notes that says residents reporting criteria. If they see a violation, can we have a Marine Patrol hotline or somewhere to record it? We could send it to a voicemail.
The problem is at night, you can't see hull numbers and you don't know. We had one on the lake last night. I took the spotlight to them and they got right off the lake.
Well, maybe if you
I have
do
no idea who it
know,
was.
if you do know and it's a repeater, you happen to identify the person, should we have a hotline to report it? Yes,
Yeah,
no.
no, I mean, I think a hotline is a little different issue. I think the Marine Patrol hours, and maybe you're right, Bob, maybe we should just have 10 PM on weekends, go to 11 PM on weekend. I don't know.
It used to be 9 o'clock, not sunset. Used to be 9 o'clock.
I
well,
like 9 o'clock.
Sunset, right now sunset's 7:45.
I like
well,
9
and-
o'clock. I think 9 o'clock's good.
9 o'clock, which should be bare minimum, with the exception of Saturday nights,
Right.
perhaps after 10 or after 10:30.
We used to
Because
do
All
occasionally,
the activity is happening Saturday night. We
right,
had,
occasionally we used to stay after hours. It was sporadic, but purposely sporadic so that people didn't know if we were gonna be there or not.
and
I
maybe
used to-
that should
I used to
happen.
stay
Yeah.
out, when I was on duty, I used to stay out till midnight.
I think it needs more discussion.
Okay, Marine Patrol hours.
Right,
That's not necessarily an ordinance, but
No.
I think it's something we need to bring up.
I think that's. a good-
Unless we're gonna write an ordinance for Marine Patrol. And I think we
They're-
could
they're
write an
generally-
ordinance for Marine Patrol and not have to have deep involved.
They're generally docked within 20 minutes after sunset. Cause I see them come in all the time.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure this is a town ordinance change. I think this is a policy change.
It's
We have
not-
all these policies and procedures for Marine Patrol and we're following 50% of them,
Right,
So I think we do have to consider the hours.
and that's all part of the discussion with education and things like that, so,
And in 3 minutes, the other thing for Marine Patrol, why do we have 2 on a boat?
because it's a waste of money.
Thank you.
Good
Uh,
question. I saw that this weekend. It makes no sense to me.
It's been
It
going
is
on for some-
happening every weekend, Bob.
The budget for Marine Patrol used to be $30,000 a year. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is now, but if you
No
start
idea.
weekends.
Yeah, it must be more if we've got 2 Marine Patrol people on, right?
Why
Well,
do-
one's supposed to do the gate and one's supposed to do the lake,
Right.
but the gate guy must get bored, so he gets on the boat. I don't know.
I think there's still somebody at the gate. I think there's 2 people on the boat.
I mean, you're talking 3 people? Oh,
Yeah,
I can't. No,
you can't leave the gate unattended
God bless
I
America.
don't know.
We'll
unless,
see.
I
First-
think,
unless the rec person's doing the gate and then.
no, I think what happens is one of the lifeguards will either get a hold of the Marine Patrol person or go in the office and get a key and open the gate for them.
The lifeguards aren't trained to be Marine Patrol people. They're not looking.
No,
to do
they're
business.
not, but I'll tell you, that's happened to me with two of my boats that I launched. And I had to wait for the Marine Patrol guy to come back and inspect me, but the.
Yeah,
was-
I do believe they call the Marine Patrol and bring them back.
Yeah,
I
they
just don't
do.
get two on a boat.
No, they did call him back for me.
So in the 1 minute that we have, today is Wednesday. When's our LMAC meeting?
Next Wednesday, the 6th, 2 weeks from today.
Oh, good. Okay, so
Yeah.
we have a little bit of time for me to update these ordinances,
Yeah, would you
Get
do
them-
that? That'd be great. Yeah.
get them to you for review, draft 2 for review.
yeah.
Again, I have no pride of authorship, make the changes, or we'll make the changes at LMAC.
What I would suggest, Mary, is once we sort of agree that it's the way we want it, can we send it out a day or two early to the LMAC people?
Oh, I think we should.
Yeah, so that we
I-
can have a
I-
really good meeting at LMAC, productive
Bob?
meeting.
Yeah, I don't want to miss that one.
Yeah,
So, and the other thing I'd like to suggest, and Bob, could you ask Mike Nazo as the subcommittee, could we do this in executive session?
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
No recording.
Yep.
Let's get through it.
yep, good
No,
point. I like that, a good idea.
Thank you. Been there, done that. Let's just put it that way.
All right, so executive session next meeting.
Yeah. That we do whatever we have to do that is immediate, but then adjourn to executive session for the bulk of the meeting.
Yeah, I think that's good because I think people will be a lot freer about how they say things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I think we need that. Yeah, I'll, when I talk at the meeting, what I'll do is talk about the schedule and we want to, present it on the 6th for discussions. Let's ratify it by the next meeting, by October, so we can present it to the board.
Okay.
Even if we have to have a special meeting as an interim or whatever, let's just get
Yeah.
it done. Okay,
We're gonna need the bulk of 2 hours to review 2 ordinances, I would say.
I agree. So,
So if we could get executive session, that would be
yeah,
awesome.
Good.
Guys, thank you so much.
yeah, this has been good. Thank you. I appreciate it.
We've
All
made
right, I'm sending the
progress,
note off. I'm sending a note to Mike right now, so.
and I'll get something out.
He's out of the country right now. He's due back next week. So,
Nazo?
yeah, they're in Iceland.
Oh, good for them.
Oh, nice.
I'll get something to you guys, hopefully. What's today? Thursday? Tomorrow? No, tomorrow I'm gone.
Today's
Friday.
Wednesday. Today's Wednesday.
Oh, Wednesday. By the end of the weekend.
Whatever. Yeah, sounds
Okay.
good. Thank you,
That'll
Mary.
give you time.
Thanks, Mary. I really appreciate it.
All right.
Okay, guys.
Hasta la
Yes.
vista.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
a lot, guys.
guys. Good job.
Thanks.
Awesome.